Did everyone get a chance to review the minutes, and do we have any changes or edits to last month's minutes? No? Okay, can I have a motion to enter these minutes into the record? A second? Okay, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? Really? No controversy. Okay, thank you. Moving to, and thank you, Brian, for the minutes. You're doing a bang-up job on those every month. Really appreciate it. So we've got a lot to discuss today. I hope I remember everything. So just as a reminder, our next meeting will be April 14th at 4 o'clock. And we are also going to be having some meetings, I think, after we talk today, some supplementary meetings that will establish those dates as we talk about them. But when we get to Brian will be talking about a meeting that we're going to be having with Stu about messaging for the Historic Preservation Ordinance, which I think is great. Also, I've scheduled a meeting with Megan Rideout with the state of Maine to do a review of our ordinance to make sure we're CLG compliant. And so I'll be sending out a notice of when that meeting is to everyone. So this next 2 months, we're going to have a lot of little meetings. So I thank you for all your time. I know that Danny can't attend today because he's getting fashionable glasses. So, yeah. Moving on to membership, we've got some changes that we've already mentioned, but just to reiterate them, that Roger is going to be moving to full membership, and I've talked to Janice, and I don't know when that's actually going to make it onto their agenda, but I'm going to guess that the next meeting is pretty darn full. Like, it's going to be a gnarly meeting, so I would guess it'll be the one after that. They will also be discussing moving Jennifer into an alternate position. And Anne today officially is stepping down from her alternate position, which means we have an alternate position opening up. So Janet, I'd love to talk to you about that, and we can talk about that after the meeting. So membership is changing around a little bit. And I really thank Pat and Michael for always making the time and being so involved. Even though you're not official members, you're kind of still the ruling party, I think. Yeah. So thank you. Next time I update is the National Natural Landmark, and I'm just going to officially table that. Reading through the application, it's quite extensive, and I don't know that it actually hits how we're oriented. It really seems much more about plant and animal vegetation rather than the historicity of a site. But I'm going to get back to that in a few months and just see if there's another way in which that natural landmark designation might still apply to the harbor. But for now, consider that tabled. I have some items here from the Maine Historical Society that came with our membership package. So I'm just going to pass that around, and included in here are 4 guest passes. So if somebody is going to be going to Portland or has an interest in going to Portland and going to the Historical Society, please grab a pass. And our membership is all online. I sent you out today a connection to JSTOR, their research papers and what have you. But if anybody needs also to log into the Historical Society site themselves, I can give you that login information. But right now, I don't think it really gains you any access to anything you wouldn't get from just the site in general. But that's available to you. I wanted to take a group photo today for the annual report, and I don't want to forget, so please, before everybody runs away at the end of the meeting, let's gather and take a photo. So I'm just reminding everyone about that. We will get to some of the other items later, but I do want to talk today about our role in the Montgomery Dam, and what we as a community are going to do there, and our go-forward process for our public workshops as it relates to historic preservation ordinance. And that ties into what Brian will be talking about with Stu. So that's kind of the broad update. Yeah, I think we'll move on from there. So moving on to our select board liaison. Ken, do you have anything to report from the select board?
Not really. The MRCAC has made their formal report to the select board, and the select board acknowledged receipt of the report and turned the job of creating a warrant article over to the staff. There is a draft. I have not seen it officially yet, but the MRCAC has approved a draft of the warrant article. And that's about where it's at.
So I unfortunately wasn't able to attend the last meeting. I really wanted to. I did read through the packet and the agenda and the report. And something that's not clear to me is what the content of that warrant should be, because, you know, the three recommendations. Has there been any clarity about how it's going to be phrased or what the actual choice to voters will be? Or
yes, I have a draft of it.
Oh, okay. I mean, but just broadly, like,
it will present just one choice. The wording will totally be up to the select board. This is just a draft. The select board has to go through that draft. To my mind, it needs to be simplified because it adds reference to harbor, sea level rise, money. All of it needs to be straightened out and simplified to my mind. So I don't know what the final one will say, except that it will ask the voter if they want to take down the dam. The question is whether it will have favorable language for some other option or not. I'm sorry, I don't have it right
No, that's fine.
in front of me, but that's yet the final wording, which is crucial to your discussion, is
Yeah.
yet to be decided.
When will that be decided?
It's not on the, hard to say. When we should have had our most recent select board meeting, it was canceled. So everything has been backed up by 2 weeks. So I haven't seen the agenda for a week from tomorrow. So I can't tell you when it will be on the agenda.
And can you tell us what the select board knows about what we're doing with historic preservation ordinance? Have you updated them at all?
I just tell them that you're working on it and that you had a line by line review of it at your last meeting. And
Awesome. That's
it's
great.
not on the June agenda, on the June ballot.
Okay, I think this is as good a time as any for me to present some thoughts I have about the dam because it's been percolating obviously for years. So I wanted to just, if you'd indulge me, to offer some thinking around our role with what's happening there, and then I want to open it up to discussion and figure out a go forward process and plan. So my thinking on this is that we have tabled making any kind of public statement about what's happening at the dam for as long as possible, that we wanted to wait until things fell into place and knew what we were forming an opinion on. I think that time is now. So I do think that we should be making a public statement. And I kind of have been thinking about what our process should be there. And so I wanted to run this idea by you. I think we should look at it in 3 steps. My recommendation was going to be that we assign 2 of our members to do a report of not an in-depth study and in-depth research, but basically an opinion piece that is just being presented to our committee. One kind of a pro endorsement position and one an anti, and lay out the case for in that report to the committee of one, how are we defining history as it relates to this project? And therefore, what this committee's position should be with that working definition of history as it relates to this project. I think one of the hard things about this issue is, one, it's become super emotional, and two, it connects to a lot of other issues: climate change, economy, aesthetics, visitors, commerce. It's a lot of things, but this committee's concern is historic preservation. So I think we really need to dial the lens and our opinion to only be about that. What is this committee's opinion about that project as it relates specifically to historic preservation? So I was thinking that by next meeting, the two members compile this kind of little editorial opinion piece for the committee that we can all consider before we meet. Then we meet, we decide as a committee and vote if one of those two positions is what we as a committee hold, and then take another vote after that about whether we're going to advance that opinion publicly. So that's kind of my recommendation to the committee, and I would love to hear a better idea, or why this is a bad idea, or a different approach. And I will say that Jennifer gave me a fantastic suggestion, which is that if it comes to this committee taking a public position, that in addition to a letter to the editor, that we should make a formal presentation to the select board about what the committee's position is. So I would see that as being something that happens in the May select board meeting right before the vote. And I think with this timing, we can achieve that. So please tell me what you guys think about our role in this issue and a process going forward.
I think that process makes sense and is workable.
Yeah, all along I've thought we should be saying something, but it just felt like we didn't have all the
Oh, can you turn your mic?
ingredients.
Sorry.
That we didn't have all the pieces that we needed, and by now, I think everything that we're going to get is out there, so it's time to say something.
Great. Chris, what do you think? I hate to put you on the spot, but I'd love to know what you think.
Well, I think we should have lots of information put out there, especially about antique masonry. But anyway, yes, I think we should.
Brian, do you have any opinion on this? Or-
My only yeah, it sounds like a good process. Is the end goal to have unanimous consent or on a position? Or if it's not unanimous, does it undermine the entire?
I think
project?
unanimous would be desirable, but we won't know until we vote. And if it's a 3-2 type of vote, then we'd have to wonder how we want to present that. Do we want to present the Historic Resources Committee's opinion with it annotated as a 3-2 vote, or not? I think that's maybe what we decide at the end. But yes, the goal would be obviously that if we all were in agreement and held the same position, but that may or may not be true.
Okay.
Yeah. Anybody else have anything they want to offer on this?
I'll chime in on a couple of things.
Yeah.
Because we started talking about this, I started doing some research, and there actually is some work, I don't know what to call it, protocols or definitions of what makes a dam historic.
Mm-hmm.
So if it would be helpful to the people who are going to take the two sides, I'd be happy to compile, if nothing else, but some resources for them to go and read and look at. Maybe that would help them.
I think it'd be
in
super
creating their
helpful.
Opinions.
I think it'd be
I'm
really
not a
helpful.
member of the committee, so I don't want to, but
No,
I
no,
would
no,
be
no, no.
happy to,
This is
Give
open
them-
for public
because I
discussion.
had no
too.
idea what makes a dam a historic as
Mhm.
opposed to just a regular dam.
Yeah. I would go so far as to say, if the committee agrees, that you would be a perfect candidate for writing one of the opinions, unless you didn't want to do that.
I would only do that if the committee felt it was in the best interest.
Are there any opinions about that? I think Jennifer is uniquely qualified to present one side of the argument, even though she's not a committee member. She's soon to be one. Are there any opinions on that?
I agree. Yes, that's great.
Okay. Jennifer, you have no objection to doing that?
No, that's, how robust of a, do I need 50 pages?
No, I'm
4 pages?
thinking like
4 pages with the picture, is that good? Just
1 to 2
paragraph.
page, no more than 2 pages, maybe even one, but just a very like
Okay,
succinct statement of, okay.
pretty sure I know which side you want me to take.
Well, we could Iron Man and
It would be more interesting
Steel
to
Man,
do it the
sorry.
other way.
Yeah, I was thinking that. Do we have a person other than me who would like to volunteer to take a position of advocacy for the dam as a historic resource? And Roger, would you like to?
do that.
Okay, great, awesome. Is it possible for you both to maybe get this to us in the next 2 to 3 weeks, so we have at least a
sure.
week before our next meeting to think about it before we come to have a vote at our next meeting?
Yeah.
Okay, great. Thank you both. Maybe we should make this a formal motion to approve doing this. Do we have a motion for Jennifer and Roger writing 2 opinion pieces about the Historic Resources Committee taking a public stance on the Montgomery Dam project?
So moved.
We have a second? Great. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, great. So passed.
I just want to confirm,
Yeah.
this is because I am also a library board member and the library has taken no position
Mhm.
formally yet, and I don't know if they plan to. Like, this is for our internal use only, right?
Our internal use only, but it will be at a public meeting, so
Okay.
does that create a problem for you, or?
No, I like just practice the tightrope all the time.
Okay,
And these meetings are on.
Fact-based. Everything I would present would be fact-based.
Great.
So
so again, just to clarify the project, I think it's through the lens of historic preservation. What should the Historic Resources Committee position be on that project as we presented in the paper or to the select board? And I think there are 2 key things there. How do we define history as it relates to that project? And therefore, the Historic Resources Committee should take this position because of that definition of history as it relates to the dam. And I know it's like impossible to take our personal biases out of this and all the other issues surrounding it, but do the best you can to focus just on history. Thank you very much. I think that will be fantastic. All right, moving to new business, we kind of just did, but the Historic Preservation Ordinance. We just met with Jeremy and Shenley, had an hour-long meeting going over all the feedback and comments that I received from everyone at our previous meeting, going through the draft of the, I guess it's called a chapter, not an ordinance. And so we're kind of aligning with them. Yeah, we're tweaking language here or there and making some adjustments, but by and large, I think the draft is taking shape really well. I wish it wasn't a 14-page document. I worry about the public stumbling over a document that long, but I think that is going to be reason for us to make a very clean executive summary and a very clean public-facing messaging document that explains what's in here so that they don't have to read the 14-page document. So I think messaging is going to be really important. On our go forward process, I would like to have a side meeting with those who are interested as a next step to really lay out how are we going to engage with the public? Because I don't think we can just sit here as a group and kind of hammer that out, but we need to figure out when are we meeting with the public? How are we meeting with the public? What material are we presenting to them? What are they likely to ask, which relates to what Stu will hopefully do for us. But just some real thinking, some real rolling up our sleeves, figuring out a go forward plan in terms of public engagement and materials we might produce, how we will mail them, distribute them. I'd just like to have a separate meeting about just that. So I will send out some times and dates. I'd like to do it within a week and really kind of hammer out that process. But Brian, could you maybe talk a little about Stu and our time for that and what we hope to get out of that meeting?
Okay, well, Stu Cantor, who lives here in Camden, volunteered to help us with our messaging for the HPO campaign and how we talk to the public about it and how we solicit feedback from the public. And he's retired now, but he was chief of communications for PBS in Washington, D.C. And he was also had a similar job for the Urban Institute, which is a organization that works on urban policy and social issues in cities. And so he's done quite a bit of this professionally, where he actually has a funny name. It's called a murder board, because the idea is that it can be kind of, it's intentionally a bit of a shock to the person who's undergoing it, namely us in this case, because it's really exposing us to the kinds of challenges that we might face from someone who is very worried or, about this ordinance and has concerns about it and is challenging us on it. And so that we're prepared for that kind of feedback and questions. So in talking with Chris about it, we thought maybe the best time would be after our next monthly meeting. So we meet at 4 on April 14th and then right at 5. So we can just stay here in the same room and Stu will come and work with us. Now, he has given us homework, and the homework, three items here. The item 1, and I can send this out as an email.
Please do.
So if your notes aren't complete, but the first item is he'd like everyone in the group to come up with a list of the 3 most important things that you want Camden voters to know about this ordinance and about historic preservation in Camden. The 3 most important things that maybe, that you really want to make sure that they know about. And the second point is at least one piece of concrete evidence to support each of the above 3 points, right? So if your argument, just to give an example, if your argument is that historic preservation encourages tourists who come here for to view historic properties, and that in turn is good for the local economy. You've mentioned that before. Is there a piece of evidence? Is there a study that we can cite that says, look, this is what the study has come up with to prove that point? And it could be more than one piece of concrete evidence per point, but at least one. And then the final item, 3 questions you are praying the public will not ask. So the questions that you feel least prepared to answer, and you kind of just hope. So instead of hoping that they just won't ask, be prepared, especially prepared for that kind of question. So.
Great.
And I think we'll send him a draft of the ordinance before.
Yeah. So
a
I'm
couple
going
weeks
to send it to
before.
him 1 week before. Yeah.
Okay. And I don't know if he needs our homework long in advance at all. It's more like come to the meeting with it. But if you do have it before, I'll definitely send it along to him.
Great. That's so great. It's going to be really helpful. And just so you know, the Megan Rideout meeting is March 27th at 3 p.m. for anyone who can make that. It'll probably be a Zoom. I can send out a Zoom link and you can all join that way. That way we don't have to gather or worry about a meeting space. But hopefully that will be a really painless meeting where she'll just give us some specific things that she might want to see in the chapter. All right, I've already covered the public workshops. All right, so moving on from the preservation ordinance, does anybody else have anything else to comment about the state of the ordinance at this point? Okay, we'll move on. Deconstruction and reuse. So Danny's not here today, but I met with the creative director and art director and the editor of the Midcoast Villager at the new Villager Cafe with Danny a few days ago. And he's actively putting deconstruction and reuse in practice there. So some of the materials he's taken from his homes that he's worked on is going into the Villager Cafe, and they're going to be telling that story there. So they're in the process of creating how those materials live on in terms of a story or a narrative in that space. And Danny wanted to bring me in to kind of think about how we could make that a larger conversation about Camden history. So we were talking about various things because there's an exhibit space and then another space that would be a potential place for us to introduce Camden history. And we just were loosely talking about ideas as a group. I don't know where it will go, but they are really imagining that cafe as a meeting place in Camden in a way in which the reporting and journalism of the paper dovetails with community discussions and community issues. So they're really wanting it to be a hub of Camden engagement. So I think that's really what's behind the initiative of creating the cafe in the first place in its connection to the newspaper, which I think is a really cool idea. So one of the things we threw out was, as we've been talking about archiving, is there a way to kind of maybe have a weekly podcast, like a community cast or a Camden cast, something that is a set up installation where at a set time each week, a different person's story is told. So personal histories, and then perhaps having some item that kind of is a featured aspect of that story that then goes on display in this kind of revolving exhibit of items coming to life, personal stories coming to life. And those would then be archived at the newspaper and accessible there, but might also later feed into our larger archiving discussion. So this would just maybe be an entryway to start hearing people's stories at the cafe. I don't know where it's going to go. It's just a very preliminary discussion, but I thought it was really interesting. And I appreciated Danny bringing me into that. Brian, do you have anything to report on social media?
Well, Pat sent me some great information. She did some research on Ruel Robinson, who lived in the late 1800s, the early 1900s. And so I posted something about that. I'll post more about him. And any material you have to send me, hope to be able to do more posting.
I wonder if there's any way to connect to Camden Famous. They're just doing such a fantastic job of everybody in the community seems to be linking to them, and the stories they're telling are great profiles. I wonder if there's some way we can work or interface with them. And certainly as we start promoting the historic ordinance, I hope that our social media site gets some attention there, and whatever materials we distribute, I hope that we could have a QR code perhaps that takes you directly to our social media sites. Anyway, okay, yeah.
What family did you say?
What family?
Camden Famous.
Oh, Camden Famous.
Yeah.
I thought it said Camden family.
I was talking about my own family. Have you seen Camden Famous? It's yeah, they do.
Not in detail, but I saw it
Yeah, it's an Instagram account that does a really nice job of profiling local businesses. Pat, do you have anything you want to report on the plaques?
No, just that Richard Remsen delivered 2 plaques that we've had on order since November to me. And I haven't delivered them to the homeowners yet because one is not going to be here till June. I notified her. And that's at, I think, 155 Bayview Street. I can't remember the number, but it's been on our docket for a long time waiting. And the other is 12 Chestnut Hill. And that Chestnut Hill is interesting because it's the Chestnut Street Historic District goes down Chestnut Hill and picks up one house on the right on Chestnut Hill. And this house is the second house on the right. Belongs to the Nevises, Tony and Susan Nevis. And so that plaque is for their house.
Okay.
And we've had one new application. And we haven't, Rhonda and I have been working on it because the history was all confused. So that's it. Again, when,
Yeah,
at some time when we're not so busy, I'd love to
pass it off to someone.
pass this on to someone.
As part of our discussion today, I had been thinking over the weekend that this plaque program is wonderful, but it's kind of like floating out in the netherworld of what does it mean. It's a beautiful aesthetic thing. It's a beautiful statement. But I think given that we're making this historic preservation ordinance, that we need to figure out some way in which this is part of that, so that you're getting a plaque on the house. It means something in terms of historic preservation or historic designation. So that's something we'll work out or figure out. But I think it's a natural tie-in for those properties that are not in the historic overlay map but want to attain historic designation. I think we need to have some mechanism of way to connect the plaque to town designation. Okay.
Chris?
Yes.
Perhaps it could be an option for people if they have a plaque on their house that they've gotten recently or 30 years ago. Maybe it's just put out as an option. Do you want to be come under the jurisdiction, so to speak, of the ordinance?
That's absolutely what I've been thinking. I think that when the time comes to redo this brochure, I would like to add that you know, as an adjunct to this, you can also apply for historic status within Camden, but also for us to go back to everyone who's had a plaque issued and approach them and ask if they want to be part of the program. So, but yeah, absolutely. Yeah, because I would like it to be synonymous. You have a plaque on your house, you're a historic property in Camden. Okay.
And that brochure will need to be updated also. The pricing is off now.
Yeah. I'll get Tracy right on that. All right. Michael, do you have anything to report on Curtis Island? And your mic's off.
We've been meeting to see where the town is in terms of an agreement, and met with Audra and Susan Dorr, I'm sorry, and made some headway there. And probably a couple of the major ones is there's $50,000 that's been put in the budget for the roof of the light tower. And that's one of the fragile elements that's, that could go bad. So,
Proposed for the
pardon?
budget proposal.
Yeah, it's in the budget. It's still in the budget at this point. And also there's, I think, $4,000 in the budget for community service organizations, and that would be the foundation in general. And last year we got $5,000 from the town, and that isn't earmarked for anything. I think it's to support everything we're doing. And I noticed that Steve Pixley had, I think, $1,500 in the budget for Curtis Island. I don't know what his thinking is, if it's, they help us a lot with getting stuff off the island and cleaning up, and whether it covers staff time or new outhauls, new stairs, stuff like that. So that we're, it's work in progress.
Yeah.
And,
Well, I
but
know that
we're
roof was a
hoping
really
this
big
summer
deal.
that we can deal with the roof, if we can raise enough money, and we're gonna have to raise quite a lot of money. But the roof on the light tower and the 50,000 will be probably a good start into that. We don't have bids yet. We're gonna be, the town is going to do the bidding on it. And the second would be the roof of the light keeper's house. And that's kind of a mess. There have been new shingles blown off during the last couple of months. We had an aerial view of it, and you could see where the shingles were off. And thanks for that lead last time. You suggested someone who had a drone who could,
I did.
yeah. You left me a name, I think. No?
The only person I know who has a drone is Allison.
Okay.
Maybe it wasn't you.
Yeah.
Maybe it wasn't her.
But anyway, someone gave me the person's name, and they flew a drone over and took some pictures. And there are some new shingles off. So that's about it. We've just got a lot of things going. Oh, so the foundation will try to raise the money to do the new roof on the caretaker's cottage. And it's not just shingles, it's the finish work, it's the gutters. I mean, that's where the mess is on that. And probably have to replace roof boards, if not all of them, some of them, probably a lot of them, because they've cracked where the nails have been driven over so many different roofs that have been on there since the 1886. So
What's your time frame for working on the roof? Do you have a?
we would love to do it this summer. And if we can raise the money and
So
the town again will,
It's not grants, you're looking for donations.
yeah, I mean, it's too late for grants for that. So we're talking about it. We're about ready
You
to,
have a $10,000 grant in.
yeah, I put a $10,000 grant in for Maine Community Foundation.
Mhm.
So I'm hoping that will come through, but that's going to be minimal. I mean, it's a start.
Is that just the roof, or is there any more of the metal work?
Well, the two things, on the caretaker's house, yeah, it'll be whatever, metal and flashing and gutters and downspouts, but everything kind of up at the frieze level and the cornice level. And that way, that's one project. You can price it out. It'll do the most to kind of save the place for the next year. And then theoretically, again, it depends on funding. If we can raise the funds and the funds are available, next summer we would do the rest of the outside of the house. But this year it's the roof, and then any other places where water may be penetrating. There might be a temporary fix on the sides, windowsills, like that. So we've got a pretty, I think, definite plan where we want to go.
Michael, you probably said this and I missed it, but what about the town itself, the town budget? Are they putting something? in
Yeah,
place?
the town has put $50,000 into the
Oh,
budget
that was the town, okay.
Yeah.
I didn't realize. Okay,
to be used. It's kind of earmarked for the light tower, the metal roof on the light
oh,
tower.
okay, no, I meant the cottage.
No.
Where- 'cause-
No.
Okay,
Now,
you're talking about doing the light tower this summer.
yeah,
Oh,
Doing
okay.
both.
and
He was
actually
talking about-
both. So the town's responsible for the light tower, and we'll make that happen.
Okay.
We'll be involved in terms of making sure the standards and the historic standards are appropriate. And then we'll raise the funds that will work with the town to do the house.
Okay.
And we'll get, bids on that as well.
Is there interior damage from the roof shingles being blown off?
Haven't been out. I hope to get
Water
out there
damage?
in the next week. The drone vision showed like a piece like this wide, probably 4 feet, 3 feet by about a foot. And all the under paper was there. So I'm hoping
Wow.
there wasn't much, but we've had a lot of water, as you know, the last week. So I'm hoping none got in.
Great. Thank you, Michael.
Yep.
What's the latest on the docks, by the way?
The town wants to keep it simple and is not interested in putting out something that would be so open to boats landing and dropping off people and overpowering the nature of it, of the island. And incidentally, we did the visioning programs last month. We had 2 sessions at the library. We had 57 people attend. And the vision so far, it's not set, but I'd say the themes in it are keep it natural. That was a big one. Pay attention to the environment, the overall ecology and the natural plants and whatnot on the island. And I think the other would be probably we'll definitely put in some new staircases. So I have a grant that'll cover that. And
But it's on
But-
your website, the complete
yeah,
report.
it's not on the website
Oh,
yet.
it's not yet.
No. So the report, I can get you a copy if you're interested in. We're still just sending out a message to everyone that participated and giving them a summary of the initial findings. But I think the good thing is go on our website, curtisisland.org, and you'll find a place to fill out the report, the visioning workbook, I call it. There are just 3 questions. Go in, answer them, and we're going to take all of that information. So we're trying to expand from the 57 who are there to 5,000. It doesn't matter how many. But and so that's why we're a little reluctant to put out, what the themes are, because that's based on 57 people. But my cut is there's a lot of keep it sort of the way it is, and don't over commercialize the island. It's something very special.
Awesome. All right, so new business. I think we've got enough on our table to not go into the archiving project right now. And with Anne stepping down, she's collected a lot of information, as you know, on Jacob Street Historic District, and there was work done on a Elm Street Historic District. And at some point, I just don't think it's realistic for us to advance that prior to November. So I think that will be other things to table and look at. But Anne would love to pass on all the research and information she did on Jacob Street to a new member to finish that. So that's something we'll talk about later. Is there anything else anybody wants to discuss or bring up?
I'd like to just mention an historic preservation victory in Camden. Maine Preservation Society has announced, I think that was just yesterday, 5 buildings in Maine to receive this year's honor award recipients. And one of them is Bay Chamber in Camden. So it says Maine's Preservation's 2025 Honor Awards will take place Tuesday, March 25th at 5:30. That's where the award ceremony will be at the Opera House in Gardner.
That seems like something to put on social media.
Yeah, the other properties are in Bangor, Gardner, Gorham, Eastport, Bucksport, and South Freeport. I don't know if it comes with money or is it just, I don't think so. It's not a grant. It's just an award it says, as we celebrate excellence in historic preservation, leadership, rehabilitation, and craft in Maine.
Nice. Great. Awesome. Thank you. Chris, you said you wanted to say something?
Excuse me?
I thought I saw a hand go up. Did you?
Oh, no, I was just.
Oh, okay. Okay, anything else open for
fly
discussion?
flying, Getting the season.
All right. Do we have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second?
It's 3 months.
Nice. All right. Meeting adjourned. Thank you,